I want to share with you a very specific, secret mission which the Rebbe gave me at the time, which had to be kept confidential. And subsequently, 20 years later, I got permission from an elder chassid to reveal it. But first, I'll give you the background, how difficult it was. After I'd been to Russia and I knew a few people, I got a phone call once at 4 o'clock in the morning. And my wife answers the phone and says, "It's for you. It's from Moscow." So I washed my Negelwasser, so I knew it's going to be, it's not just good morning, America. And I took out a pencil and paper. Operator, "Mr. Lew." I said, "Yes." "Moscow, Govorit," he said, "Speak." He told the other party. The first words that the other party said were, "Reb Shmuel, im ata makir et koli, lo tagid et shmi." Reb Shmuel, if you recognize my voice, don't say my name. Ani achiv shel Admur Hazaken. I am the brother of the Alter Rebbe, of the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I just got up, and I had to work out the Chabad biographies that Rabbi Shneur Zalman had a brother called Yehuda Leib. So this was someone who we knew as Yehuda HaKatan. There were 2 Yehudas in Moscow in the Chabad group. He was Yehuda HaKatan, and that's how I was able to identify him in my mind. And he had 18 points that he wanted to share with me. Some of them were questions to be asked of a halachic authority. Some were requests for a bracha, that the Rebbe should daven for someone. Some of them were requests for an invitation for a visa, people who wanted to come out of Russia. And everything was said in a similar type of riddle to what I just said before. When he told me his name, that is how he had to talk to me. And this is 1984 or so. So just to give you a bit of an idea, when I was there the first time, it was Rosh Hashanah, 1981, Tovshin Mem Beis, and there was an old chassid by the name of Reb Getcher. He was close to 80 years old at the time, and he wasn't a great intellectual scholar, but he was a deep chassid who people came to Russia just to hear him daven. He would lead the davening every single day, and there were hundreds of Balchuvis in the group. And we had Rosh Hashanah in his apartment. About 40 people were there. It was like a Chabad house. Most of them, the vast majority, were young people in their 20s and 30s. And on Rosh Hashanah afternoon, I said in Yiddish, I said to Reb Getcher, "What do you really need here?" I mean, because we would come in, taking in tefillin, which we left there, brand new pairs of tefillin, mezuzahs. We were taking various tashmishei kedusha, objects of holiness, and tzitzis, talis cottons. You had to go in for a week, and you come in with 7 or 8 talis cottons. It could look a bit suspicious, because the law, Soviet law was you can take in what you need for personal use in terms of literature or religious matters, but you can not allowed to take in anything to leave there. So what I did was, I actually put on 6 or 7 talis cottons. I wore them. And in fact, I was the contact person in England for years, and Professor Green, Oliver Shalom, Velvel Green, when he went there, he was in my house for Shabbos. He left on a Sunday morning, and he said, "What do I have to take in?" I said, "This and that." And I said, "And 7 talis cottons, 7 tzitzis." He said, "No way I'm going to take 7 tzitzis." I said, "Why not?" He said, because they'll see right away that you have brand new things. What are you coming with 7 brand new tzitzis? I said, "You're going to wear them." He said, "Definitely not." I said, "Why not?" He said, "I look like I'm a shugana." So I said, "And with one you look normal." And he told me subsequently that was a deep lesson in his life. Very often we refrain from doing certain things because of the image that we might project. And really, people know what you are, and if they're normal people, they'll respect you for it, or at least just accept it. But this is the type of how we had to go in. I would take in Sidurim, or Rambams, or Beis HaBechira, other Sefarim, other holy books, but never would take in brand new ones. I would buy brand new ones, and I'm a principal in the school, and I would get people who had a siddur which was nearly new, but you could see that it was used. I would take this Sefarim from the Chabad library in London, the lending library, with a card in it, and I would replace it with a brand new one. That's how careful we had to be. For Pesach, 1982, Pesach was a time, so I asked Reb Getcha, what do you need? What's urgent? And he answered within a second. He said, Shmura Matza. And it makes a lot of sense, because a pair of tefillin, they need that as well desperately, but tefillin will last for 100 years, a good pair. A mezuzah will last for 50 years. A talis cotton will last for 20 years if you look after it. But matzah will last for 4 minutes till you can ingest it. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to eat it. It's perishable. And he showed me on the shelf in his house, on top of the bookcase, there were 2 or 3 packets, and he's talking for thousands of people. So even if they got the matzah, they were able to have the kizayis, they were able to have the minimum amount for the seder, and then they didn't have food for Pesach. So I started a campaign myself to send in matzah, besides everything else, as the contact person, and I would go to all Hasidic shuls and all other, where people had shmura matzah for the whole Pesach. I would go there on the 7th day of Pesach and tell the people, anyone who has an unopened packet of matzah, give it to me after Pesach. And I had a designated room at home, and I had piles and piles, and I sent in hundreds and hundreds of matzahs over the years. Starting with Isru Chag, the day after Pesach, we would already be sending it in with Jews, with non-Jews, with anyone. Whoever was going in, we would send in the matzah. I just tell you one more story before I tell you about the secret mission. In 1982, Tavshem and Beis, for Pesach, we wanted to send food, Pesach food, besides matzah. And people didn't have what to eat. They had families, they had children. And there was precious little that there were certain things you could use without a hechsher during the year. But Pesach, obviously, this wasn't an alternative. And we found a boy, a Jewish boy, his family belonged to a liberal synagogue, that's like Reform over here. And his class of 30 boys were going in to Russia as a trip. It's quite frequent. In England, it always was, even under the time. It wasn't America. It wasn't the 2 superpowers. Less threatening. The Russians were less paranoid. And this class were going in as part of their Russian language study. They were going to go and spend a week in Russia. We asked the boy, would you take in some Pesach food? It was about 3 weeks before Pesach. And he said, sure. Would you ask your friends, your classmates, if they would, so we can send them with more than one person? Doesn't look that suspicious. It's only food, and they'll just think everybody, and all his classmates were not Jewish, and every single one agreed to take in something. So one person took in a pound of sliced American cheese. Another one took in a can of Pesach fish or salmon or some other things which had a proper hechsher. We bought 2 blue suitcases with green stripes, filled them up to the brim with provisions for Pesach, gave them to this boy. He distributed amongst his classmates. Everyone put one little packet of something into his suitcase. And then we also sent somebody else, a Bnei Akiva boy, a 17, 18-year-old student, who went into Russia for 5 days. His job, he was going to learn with people and meet with refuseniks, but his real job was he went in with 2 identical suitcases, blue suitcases with green stripes. And when he was there in Russia, he took the 2 empty suitcases and we made sure they were in the same hotel, visited this boy who had repacked everything into the thing. He walked into the room and came out 10 minutes later, still carrying 2 suitcases, even though they were pretty heavy when he walked out. And then this person, this Bnei Akiva boy, gave it to Reb Getcher, that chassid, and he distributed it amongst the families. So in order to do the simplest type of sharing, that's what you had to do. To get matzah into Russia, I had to send 1 parcel with 2 pounds of matzah, and I told the people who were afraid to take it in, I said, it's nothing. When you walk in and the people at the customs, they ask you, what is this? You go, just what I'm telling you, like this. My stomach, I need it. It's a diet. And people who are at customs are used to people's food idiosyncrasies. They're used to it. It's just a wafer. And we sent in, as I said, hundreds of matzahs, thousands of matzahs. I don't know how many packets I sent in over the years. And never once did the custom ever question, why do you have these wafers, even though they had Hebrew writing? That's the background to the story that I want to share with you, to illustrate the Rebbe's love and reach and miracles. I got a phone call about 10 days before Pesach. It was a Monday afternoon from one of the secretaries of the Rebbe, Rabbi Groner. And he said, the Rebbe told me to call you and to ask you if he sends you matzah for Russia, will you be able to get it into that country before Pesach? And then he said in Yiddish, in the name of the Rebbe, und man soll nicht reden wegen dem of Kingston Avenue. And it shouldn't be spoken about on Kingston Avenue. In other words, can you keep it completely quiet? Now, I've been sending him matzah. I went around, I would send in Vishnitz matzah, Bobov matzah, Komamias matzah, Satma matzah, Montreal, Popper Bakery, all these different bakeries. So I got these packets of matzah. I said, matzah from the Rebbe that he personally participated in preparing them. He got the water for the flour, the Mayim Shalom that the Rebbe would collect. And the Rebbe is sending it to them. This is so fantastic. And there were times the Rebbe would send a packet to London, a packet to Manchester, a packet to Kfar Chabad. So I figured I can't get a packet into Russia in 10 days. 1985 this was. 1985. Mamhei. So I said immediately, sure, yes. He said, fine. I'll phone you back with further instructions. I called up my contact people, and we had contact with various groups and the Israeli embassy. They knew everything. So my contact person said, the Russians have been refusing visas to everyone before Pesach. Anyone who's planning to go before Pesach, they've been withholding visas, refusing visas, except for a lawyer from Leeds. Let's call him Mr. Levy, not his name. Mr. Levy from Leeds is a lawyer. He's going on Friday. He's arriving Friday night, and he's coming back Monday. He's going with a colleague. That's the only person that's going into Russia from England. I said, check. And they checked with the various movements, with the 35s, that was a special movement of activists for Russia, the Israeli embassy, and it all said the same thing. Then I get a call back from Rabbi Groner. He said, the Rebbe is sending you a box, and in it there are 10 packets of matzah. Instructions are, one of those packets you are to give to Rabbi Sudak, alav shalom, to distribute in London. One of those packets you are to give to Rabbi Cohen in Manchester, the Rosh Yeshiva, and he is to distribute Lefi Ois Einov, the way he sees fit. And 8 are for Russia. And there were also a packet of dollar bills from the Rebbe to be given to the Jews in Russia in a legal way, exchange it in a legal way, and give it to them for Pesach. 8 packets of matzah, that would be, normally that could take me 2 months. And here it's 10 days to Pesach, and I still don't have the matzah. They haven't been sent yet. I didn't get them till Wednesday, which was just over a week before Pesach. And I started phoning everywhere. I phoned the Shluchim in France, in Spain, in Germany. I don't remember if it was Germany, but in Switzerland, in Belgium, in Italy. I phoned all these countries, and all of them said they didn't know where to begin to find out if anybody's going in, except Rabbi Levi Schmerling, Olav Shalom. He was the owner of the Schmerling cheese and chocolates and everything, and he was a very good friend and a beautiful person. He found me someone in Belgium who had multiple entry visa to Russia. He was a very wealthy person who dealt in diamonds, did a lot of business in Russia, and he could go in whenever he wanted, and was a practicing Jew, an Orthodox Jew. And he asked the man, would you take the matzah in, make a special trip? He said, I would, but only if the Lubavitcher Rebbe personally phones me and asks me to do it. And that wasn't going to be an option. And I had already said yes. So the first thing I did was I called up our friend from Leeds, Mr. Levy. And I asked him, can you take 2 packets and your friend 2 packets? I explained to him it's from the Rebbe, how meaningful it would be to the people there. I figured I'll get half of it in. And he was excited and he said yes. But then he called me back 10 minutes later, and he says, my wife said she'll kill me if I take it. She's afraid. She said, I need a husband. You can't go there. I said, give me your wife's number. So I phoned her up, and I was pleading with her, and I explained to her that there's absolutely zero danger to the tourists. The worst they could do is expel you from the country. If there's any danger, it would be to the locals who met the person. I said, it's nothing. The end is, she relented that each could bring in 1 packet. So I already had arranged 2. This was Wednesday, and the matzahs arrived. I got them on Wednesday. Thursday, I took a train to Leeds, 2.5-hour train ride. I met him at the British rail station. He was going on Friday to Russia. Thursday, I gave him the matzah. I spoke with him. I gave him 26 of the $59 and gave him instructions to whom to give it. And then I took him to train 2.5 hours back. But I still had 6 packets of matzah. And then I was in touch with Ezras Achim. That was a movement here in America, Chabad activists for Russia, but without the name Chabad. For obvious reasons, they couldn't have that kind of identity. And they worked hard, and they found 2 20-year-old yeshiva university boys, 2 modern Orthodox from boys who were going into Russia for 2 weeks to meet with refuseniks, to have a communal seder. And I said, they will take it in. By this time, the matzah was in England, so I'm going to have to now deliver it back to America. I asked my wife for permission. She had just 3 weeks before given birth to our 14th child. And I think she might have been relieved to get me out of the house from under her feet. Anyway, she is a tzaddikus, and she said right away, yes, no problem. If that's what you have to do the Rebbe's Shlichus, you do it. And then, thank God, we found out they're going British Airways. And they're stopping in London. And in those days, you didn't have to, you can change terminals, and you went out. They came in Terminal 3, and they were leaving to Moscow in Terminal 1. The plane lands at 6 a.m. It's Thursday, just a day before Erev Pesach. So I went to Terminal 3 to meet them. I got a taxi at 4 o'clock in the morning. I arrived there at 5, just in case the plane was early. The plane came in at 6. I saw the 2 boys with the kippah sruga coming out, and they said, they expected to see me. I had what they call a jet sack. It cost about $15, a special, very thick plastic bag, which was made to put on It was before the days of these wheelie carry-ons, and to put just fit in the overhead in the planes. And I said, let's go to a quiet corner here. It was 6 in the morning. Everything was very quiet. We went to a cafeteria, which was empty. And I said, you have to take this in. They said, no way in the world. They thought I'm going to give them a little pocket haggadah or something. They were just told I'm going to give them something to take to the Jews of Russia. But they had no idea what it's going to be. So I said, what do you mean? I said, the Rebbe personally is sending this. Do you know what that will mean? Whatever you're going to do with the Soviet Jews, there's nothing that will be as meaningful as receiving a gift from the Rebbe, especially matzah that he personally helped to bake, to prepare, and that he wants them to have. I tried this, I tried that, all sorts of persuasion. I was not about to walk away from there with those matzahs. So suddenly I just said to them, hey, look here, guys. Do you know why you're going into Russia? They said, yeah, we're going to meet Mishusnitz. We're having a communal seder in Odessa. He said, we have all these matzahs ourselves. We have wine. We have charoshes. We have more. I don't know what they had. They said, we have all these different things. You're jeopardizing our trip. I said, you know why you're going in? They said, to meet all these people. I said, that's not why you're going in. You're going in to deliver the Rebbe's matzah. And everything else you do, extra benefit. They look at me, and then I said, and you know something? Do you know why you were born? So they said, what do you mean? I said, I promise you faithfully, I'm a rabbi, I promise you that if you live to be 180, there's nothing you ever did in your life, and there's nothing that you ever will do in your life that's more significant than taking these matzahs into those Jews. And then they were going to take in, they relented till take in 3. They tried to make a deal with me, and I said, you're taking all 6. And they did. And they, together with the other $33, told them to change it legally and give it to the Jews there. I said, where are you going to be when you come back? They're coming back Thursday night. They have to stay in London overnight in the hotel. I said, come to my house overnight. And we'll bake you challahs. You'll have a meal like Suda Shlomo B'Shaita. You'll have a meal you never had. After 2 weeks in the Soviet Union, you'll be just ready for that. And they went. Now I'm going to report to you what happened with the two packets of matzah and the 6 packets. The man from Leeds went in. This is all before these boys went, by the way. They went in on Friday, got there Friday night, and the customs did not ask them about anything at all that they had except the matzah. I had sent in so many times, I had sent in matzahs, and they never once made a mention of it. They came in, this Mr. Levy, and they said, what's in that packet? The Klippa felt it. They felt the tremendous kedusha there. And he said, it's special wafers. Open it up. He opens it up, and the customs man picks up the first matzah. So this lawyer is coming on Friday night. He screams at him, you're not allowed to touch it. Only a Jew can touch it. So the customs man said, I suspect that you have special secret messages in between these wafers. I want to pick up every one of them. So he said, I will do it. And he picked up every matzah and showed that there's no messages. And he said, don't worry, Rabbi, I threw out the one that he touched. Threw it away, which wasn't necessary, of course. And he delivered it together with his friend to the address I told him. And I said, Mr. Levy, you cannot imagine what a mitzvah you have done. He said, Rabbi, please don't tell me. I said, why not? He said, I saw their eyes. I saw their faces. He says, I never saw such a sight. That was my reward. I said, in that case, I promise you that this will bring you blessing in your material life as well. He said, Rabbi, please don't tell me. I said, why not? He said, I'll tell you something. I'm a lawyer. He's a pretty well-known lawyer in Leeds. But there's a very big lawyer in London. He says, I'm trying to do a certain deal with him for the last 5-6 weeks. And I've never been able to get a hold of him. He's either abroad or he's on the phone, or he's in a conference. He never was available. I delivered those matzahs in Moscow. I walked out into the street, and I met him on the streets of Moscow. And we did the deal. Right there. He says, so you don't have to give me any blessings. It happened already. That's number one. The boys who were arriving a day before Pesach, the night before, I think it's the night of Bedikas Chametz, if I remember correctly, when they arrived. They came back 2 weeks later. They were excited. You think they're just coming straight out of 770, having a great day on the mitzvah tank. And they said, they went into Russia. No one asked them anything. It went through, Geshmiat, no problem. They went and delivered it. They said, we delivered 5 of them, and we kept the 6th one. I said, why do you keep it? They said, we had a communal seder ourselves in Odessa, and we used it, and it electrified the whole crowd. Something straight from the Rebbe was sent for them. And they said that wherever they went in Russia, like Chalamoyed, Pesach, in the intermediate days, we went for a walk in a park, and somebody saw guys with they said, oh, shalom, shalom uvracha. They said, shalom, ma shlomchem. So they said, min hashemayim shalchu lanu matzot me'Harabbi. From heaven, we were delivered matzahs from the Rebbe. They didn't realize they were the deliverer. Wherever they went, they met any Jews, they said they had received, somehow the distribution network operated as efficiently as you could imagine. Before Pesach, every town, they said, even on the plane coming back, they met a number of people who had been in Leningrad to a communal seder or somewhere else, and all of them had a piece of the matzah which the Rebbe had sent in. Now, I didn't tell the story for 20 years after it happened, but I then went to an elderly chos. I told him, I said, it's a story the Rebbe said it shouldn't be spoken about on Kingston Avenue. He said, he released me. He said, you can tell it. And I told this story 8 years ago in Moscow, on the Yud Aleph Nissen Farbrengen. And one of the people at that Farbrengen was a Baal Teshuvah, someone who had become observant relatively recently. He said, I had from that matzah. I was a young student, and I was going to the metro, to the subway, to the underground in Moscow, and there was someone outside there, like doing Mivtzoim, and said, here's a piece of matzah from Rebbe for tonight's Seder. And so I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people, and these boys exchanged the dollars themselves, and they said they had all sorts of beautiful revelations in it. That's the story. What did I learn from the story? What I took from this story is, number one, I did something which is not really conventional. Rabbi Groner called me up and he said, if the Rebbe sends you matzah, can you get it into Russia by Pesach? The conventional, normal thing would have been, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. I'll make my inquiries, which I had to do anyway right after the call. I didn't. I don't know why. I just felt that everyone wants to get matzah into Russia, it's going to happen. Sometimes we are struggling with our inner selves about the 100 different freedom of choice that we have, the choices that we have to make every day. And we're always asking ourselves, should I do it? Should I undertake it? Should I not? Sometimes we have to say yes. We have to say yes to the Rebbe that's in each one of us, our own inner neshama, and say, I'm ready to take the step. And then it's not going to be easy. There are going to be obstacles. There are going to be questions. There are going to be distractions. But yet, to feel I'm going to be able to do it because I undertook it I promised it to a very, very deep part of myself. That was the first thing that I learned from it. And the second thing I learned from it is that when you do something which is the right thing to do, and you do something as the Rebbe wanted, what did the Rebbe want? He wanted us to serve Hashem according to that which is most available to me where I am. He wanted each of us. The vision was it didn't make a difference where you are. It was more the direction than the destination. Where you're going, how you're moving. And when a person does that, it helps him in his spiritual life, and it's inspiring in his spiritual life, and it also helps even in your material life.